Chapter 5 Oasis of Tests. Leandra holds on to Vorsha's amulet and clings tightly to Mava's hoverbike as they pass through the deserts of Egypt. Mava rides through every piece of shade she can find to avoid the heat as much as possible. The wind passing over their cheeks provides temporary relief, but it is still too warm. To help speed them up, Leandra shoots gusts of wind behind them to give them a boost. Mava chuckles, feeling a sense of excitement each time she does this. Leandra looks ahead and sees a glimmering oasis standing out against the sand dunes. She pokes Mava on the shoulder and points at the oasis to signal where to go next. Mava looks back for a moment and nods inside her red helmet. Leandra grasps Vorsha's amulet tighter, knowing they will be stopping soon. When they reach the lush greenery, Mava pulls up in front of the oasis. Vorsha floats out of Leandra's arms and hovers toward the grass and into the shade. Leandra gets off the bike and looks at the oasis directly ahead. Mava parks the bike and gets off. As she takes off her helmet, she sees 3 cloaked figures in the distance. And just as she's about to get a better look, they disappear into the desert haze and heat waves. "I'm so glad that we found this place, Mava," Leandra says. "What are the chances of such a beautiful place existing in the middle of the desert? Is this normal?" Mava hesitates, thinking about what she just saw before walking onto the grass, somewhat speechless. This isn't normal. She feels the grass crunch under her boots and looks down. Leandra looks at her and can tell she is disturbed by their surroundings. "Is everything okay?" Leandra asks, placing her hand on Mava's shoulder. "Ah!" A man shouts from deeper within the oasis. Leandra, Mava, and Vorsha look toward the noise, poised for battle. "Help me!" He shouts even louder. "Let's get the blazes out of here!" Mava shouts. She jumps onto the bike and attempts to start it, but it's unresponsive. "What is going on?" She gets off and kicks the back end. "I thought this thing was brand new." "I can't leave someone who might need help, especially by the sounds of it. He really needs it," Leandra says. She runs deeper into the oasis with Vorsha floating behind her. Mava pauses for a moment, then runs after them. They reach a large metal gate, too high to jump over and too sturdy to take down. "Leandra, use your powers! Break this thing down if you want to help that guy!" Mava shouts. Leandra signals for Mava and Vorsha to back up as she funnels powerful gusts of wind at the gate, but nothing happens. Other than slight wiggling, the gates appear immovable. "Wait!" Mava shouts. She runs her hands over the gate and notices carvings of dragonflies and other bugs. "These bugs are not all local to this area." Leandra looks at Mava, trying to understand the significance of what she is talking about. "What does that mean?" she asks. "Whoever made this thing is probably not from here," Mava says. When she takes her hand off one of the bug carvings, it lights up and feels cool. "Ah!" The man shouts again from the other side of the gate. "Maybe there's a way to get in," Leandra says. She studies the insect carvings and presses some of them. She notices that when she leaves her hand on certain carvings for a while, they feel hot, while others cool down. The longer she keeps her hand on the warmer carvings, the bug that is already lit dims and grows warmer. "I think I understand what's going on here," Mava says. She places her hands on all the bugs she does not recognize, and they light up as they cool. She points out other carvings for Leandra to touch as well. "I think that's all of the bugs that don't belong here," Mava says. The gates light up in different colors and display the face of a giant lizard with an open mouth, filled with the bugs. Then the carvings dim, and the lizard's mouth closes as the lighting changes. A loud click is heard from the middle of the gate. Mava pushes against the gate, and it opens. All three move into the oasis beyond the gate. They frantically look for the source of the shouting. Inside, they find large amounts of lush, healthy plants. They walk on tall grass that is soft under their feet. The shouting grows louder. Vorsha hovers farther into the oasis in the direction she believes the shouting is coming from. Leandra and Mava follow. They find Vorsha stopped in front of an alcove in the bushes where a reddish holographic image of a man flickers. The man in the hologram shouts as though something is about to get him. "What is this?" Leandra asks. She reaches out to touch the hologram, but Mava swipes her hand away. "Not all holograms are safe to touch, Leandra, especially when we have no idea where we are," Mava says. Vorsha shines a light on the hologram, and the others watch. "Please, if anyone is listening to this, please turn back if you can now, or please help me if I am still around," the man says frantically. "I found this place while searching the desert for different species to study. My name is Horatian Zenter. Ah! Ah!" He begins to shout, and the message replays. "There's no way that man is still around," Mava says. "His clothes don't look like anything I've seen anyone wear around here." They eventually find another hologram of Horatian, mentioning another gate leading to the next part of the oasis. The team tries to leave the oasis altogether, but an energy barrier blocks the way they came in. Near the next gate, they find another hologram of Horatian, explaining that he could not escape the oasis, no matter how hard he tried. He believes there were multiple layers to the oasis and that the middle must contain the main water source, since he hasn't found water elsewhere. The team also sees mirages of very attractive men and women, but they can never reach them. While in the outer layer, they face obstacles that force them to rely on their primal survival skills in the jungle-like environment. They encounter mutated animals and battle to survive. There are many physical tests, such as climbing and crossing rope bridges to reach new areas. At one point, Mava and Leandra pass out from what appears to be heat. But Vorsha realizes nearby flowers are releasing hallucinogenic gas and destroys them with her abilities. Leandra and Mava wake shortly after. "You notice that right when we get really mad at each other, the next thing we run into is an easier route?" Leandra asks. "And the next thing that happens is we get madder at each other because it's been harder for longer." She senses the design of the oasis reflects their emotions in some ways. Vorsha helps Leandra and Mava communicate inwardly without words. They fake different facial expressions to unlock different parts of the oasis. Leandra solves some puzzles by interpreting Mava's facial expressions. Eventually, Leandra, Mava, and Vorsha determine which emotions must be expressed for the pathways to align, and a new gate is revealed. They see the next gate to the next part of the oasis, but discover a new puzzle. This time, the three of them must remove some of the planks from the floor that are holding up the lock in the gate. To get to the planks, the team has to search through the brush and track down where the planks end to begin getting them out of place. After removing the planks, the gate unlocks, and they move into the next layer of the oasis. When they move to the next area, the gate quickly closes and locks itself again behind them. The environment looks immediately different from the area they were in before, resembling an urban city. In this area, the team sees people moving about the city, unaware at first of their entry. Mava looks at some of the wording on the buildings and makes out the year 2301. What the hell? Mava asks. She looks around at the people's clothing. No wonder that Horatian guy looks so weird, and so do these people. If this text is correct, then this place is stuck in the 2300s?
These people have a strange energy about them,
Vorsha says.
I don't think they're real. They feel similar to that Horatian guy. I also can't sense any other souls here, only us.
Leandra and Mava talk to the people, but they don't seem to understand them when they ask about the gate and where they are. We have always lived here, a woman says to Leandra and Mava. How did you get here? We came in through the gate, Leandra states, pointing behind her, but notices it's gone. The gate is now covered by trees and bushes. It was just right there. The woman looks puzzled and moves along her way. This obviously isn't completely real, Leandra, Mava states, looking around.
Ah! Help me, please!
A woman shouts from the top of a building. The inside billows with smoke and fire. The team rushes over to the house. Leandra uses her wind abilities to blow moistened soil onto the fire, putting it out. She also sends a gust of wind to lift and safely guide the woman back to the ground. The woman cries hysterically and thanks Leandra for saving her. Leandra does not know how to react, unsure if the woman is even completely real. The team has to go through areas again and again until they realize they need to exude certain emotions, such as anger. Suddenly, a door will open or a pathway will reveal itself that wasn't there just a moment before. They enter the small city and continue to help and save other people from the mutated animals, which seem to come from nowhere. They find one woman whose child died from the venom of a snake. Leandra cries with the woman, with Mava finding it difficult to hold back her tears. I don't understand, Mava says. These people can't be real, and yet I can't watch them be killed by these creatures or snakes or whatever else is trying to kill them.
We don't yet know to the fullest extent whether these people are real,
Vorsha says. The woman continues to sob while holding her dead child.
You are not from here,
she states. Leandra, Mava, and Vorsha are startled. How do you know that? Mava asks.
I heard that amulet of yours talk and
The woman pauses for a moment.
I just know.
The woman pulls out a device and pushes a button, revealing a small holographic image of Horatian, the man they saw before. My love, I cannot continue on anymore, Horatian decries. I must leave this place. I have spent over a year with you in this city, and I know it is not real, though I cannot restrain my love for you, Horatian says in the hologram. The woman cries and points toward a back door in the building they are in.
You need to go that way,
the woman instructs. She gives them a key to unlock the door.
I will not keep you from where you need to go. You do not need to go through what Horatian did trying to protect us.
Leandra, Mava, and Vorsha go through the door and find a large warehouse-like room with a gate at the far end. When they get to the far end of the room by the gate, they see a new hologram of Horatian speaking. My love, I can't go on like this. Why should I go on? Horacian falls to the floor and sobs uncontrollably. What is that? Horacian turns around, and a horde of people from the city start moving toward him with primitive melee weapons. Horacian yells at them, asking them to stop, but they do not. Stop! Horacian grabs a weapon and shoots each of the people attempting to attack him. Only one other man remains standing. Why are you doing this? Horacian shouts angrily. The man stops for a moment, then charges at Horacian with his weapon. Horacian raises his weapon and shoots the man, turning him into dust. Horacian falls back to the floor, crying, and the hologram ends. What is going on? Leandra cries out. As she cries, she notices the gate in front of them slowly opening. Mava notices and says, I think you're onto something, Leandra. Keep crying. Leandra continues to cry, and the gate opens just enough for the three of them to slip through before it closes completely. On the other side of the gate, the women find themselves in a laboratory. The gate shuts so tightly they can barely discern it's in two parts. The environment is metallic and semi-cold in most areas. Immediately in front of them, they see a man standing there looking in the opposite direction, unmoving. They slowly walk up to the frozen man. They look at his face and see that it is Horacian Zenter, the man from the earlier holograms. Leandra looks toward where Horacian is looking and notices he appears terrified. She can see he is staring at a large metallic structure in front of them, with different lasers and lights moving and swirling around it. The pathway toward the area is inaccessible, blocked by glass over 2 feet thick. What happened to this guy? Leandra asks, reaching out to touch Horacian, but Mava swipes her hand away. You have no idea what happened to him. I wouldn't touch him, Mava warns. Leandra lowers her hand, and they continue through the laboratory. They solve different puzzles that require them to remember things they saw earlier and translate symbols using tools around them to unlock passcodes and move through different areas. They run into the mutated animals again, only this time they're fitted with electronic gear and weapons. They're able to defeat them, and Mava hangs on to one of the animals' weapons. Leandra notices the weapon blinking and sounding as though it has a countdown. Mava throws it to the far side of the room, and just as she does, the gear on the animal and the weapon explode. Mava realizes that the other animals they defeated had also exploded before they could loot them. How the suns are we supposed to use these weapons if they keep exploding? Mava shouts, irritated. The women secure one of the mutated animal's weapons by luring one into a room that is extremely cold and activating the flash freeze cycle before exiting. They get out just in time to avoid the freezing process. Mava takes the weapon off the frozen animal, and it doesn't explode. She notices it is slowly starting to thaw. After many other puzzles and trials, they are able to track down an area they haven't been able to explore before by looking into Horacian's line of sight, as he appears to be looking at a path beyond the glass. Mava grabs her weapon and fires at the glass, blowing a hole big enough for them to go through. Leandra, Mava, and Vorsha traverse up the walkway Horacian is looking at and come across a metallic door that is impenetrable to them. Leandra hears the whir of machinery and pretends to pass out so she can listen to it. Vorsha communicates with Leandra in her mind, and she lets her know she should play along. Leandra follows the whir of machinery by listening to the ground. Vorsha suggests to Mava in her mind that she should pretend to show sadness. Mava refuses profusely, but realizes that it may be what's needed to move to the next part of the oasis. Mava starts crying as though she's worried about Leandra. Only the door leading back to the areas they were in earlier opens, not the large metallic door behind them. Leandra tells Vorsha in her mind that she can hear the power source for the door is connected to an area along the wall behind them. Vorsha gives Mava a mental image of where it is, and Mava uses her weapon to destroy the power source. The large metallic door opens slowly. Leandra gets up, then walks with Mava and Vorsha through the door, where they see a large, lizard-looking alien. He is somewhat startled, and next to him, they see a cat-like woman.
I'm Fjord,
The reptilian man introduces himself.
and this is my assistant, Aretha.
Leandra realizes she has seen Fjord's kind before and feels something familiar. She remembers that his kind is part telepathic. The team is at first scared and stands ready for battle, but Fjord quickly steps in.
I have no need to fight you.
Fjord says while investigating the electronic and holographic gear around him. The team lets their guard down, and they begin a conversation with Fjord and Rether. He informs them that the inner layer of the Oasis tests their intellect and higher thinking skills. Fjord explains he tests different aspects of humans, analyzing their adrenaline levels from the first layer of the Oasis. He confesses that the holograms and mirages are traps to lure people into his Oasis. It is used as a research and testing lab for intelligent life forms. Fjord informs them that he created the mid-layer to test people's emotional and processing skills. The tests he created within this layer were designed to evoke fear. He created the environment to resemble a modern urban area with fake people generated from holograms. Fjord then talks about the inner layer, which is a laboratory-type environment with puzzles designed to test their ability to think clearly and rationally without being persuaded by emotion or fear. Fjord explains he is interested in tracking their routes and life energy. Fjord and Rether see the world differently than Leandra, Mava, and Vorsha do, and he divulges that he thinks they're beautiful. He also explains he didn't realize this at first, but he just wants to know who they really are.
I've worked all this time testing people and watching them.
Fjord explains.
It's funny. Every person has a way they want to go, a way they think they'll get out. It gets interesting as their inner systems accommodate their challenges and they start to get smarter. My assistant Rether is preoccupied with their emotional struggle, but I can't relate to that aspect of them. What can we measure as a person notices more and more about their environment? As their entire focus is on the game they're playing.
Fjord says to the women. What game? Leandra asks.
Well, it's really a puzzle.
Fjord explains.
They get smarter and stronger as they advance in the puzzle.
You talk about us as though we're pieces on a game board, Leandra yells. Maybe you would like to be placed in one of your puzzles? Vorsha speaks in her corporeal form, startling Fior and Rether. You're explaining all of this as though we'd enjoy such an experiment, Mava says angrily.
Enjoy? Fior asks. With this research, sure, I'll be able to train better soldiers, but to watch a person to be put to the test, see them advance and rise to whatever I put in front of them, it's almost as beautiful as their pattern map.
Pattern map? Vorsha asks. Fior walks through another door, then looks at them and says,
These.
Fior points to many line art drawings posted on the wall.
Are the multi-dimensional displays of the people who have entered this oasis.
Fior points to the holographic images of different people where they can see multiple pathways and color coding.
What an amazing sight to behold! So many different species, all reacting in different ways. Seeing this in person, is most delightful.
You know what's delightful? Mava yells at Fior and aims her weapon directly at his head. Rether raises her weapons as well and points them at Mava and Leandra.
Those emotions,
Fior replies to Mava.
I'm sure this is fascinating to you too, Rether.
Rether winks at Fior, but remains silent. Vorsha asked you earlier, Mava grunts. What if we put you into your stupid little tests? Do you even know what it's like to wonder if you might die today?
What an interesting brainstem reaction.
Fior replies coldly.
The amount of energy it requires to emote in such a fashion.
Fior states. And how do you emote when your life is threatened? Mava yells, focusing her sight more clearly on Fior's head. He remains silent. Mava. Leandra speaks. You think I won't shoot you? Mava yells louder while taking a step closer toward Fior. Rether continues to focus her weapons on Leandra and Mava's heads.
I don't know what these emotions are,
Fior says, after a long pause. Fior continues speaking.
I think I understand why you want to study this now, Rether. Please.
Fior signals to Rether to lower her guns. There's plenty more where that came from, Mava yells again at Fior, still focusing her weapon on him.
I see,
Fior says as he moves slowly backward away from Mava. We're going to look over your recordings, see if we find anyone familiar, Leandra informs Fior.
Sure,
Fior replies. He looks over at Rether, and she walks to a console and displays information for Leandra. Some time passes while Leandra looks through Fior's files, seeing if there's any useful data they can find. Mava continues to watch Fior with her weapon in hand, now lowered to her side. Well, Leandra says impatiently, I don't see anyone else we know. We seem to be the only people who have come here in a while. Heartless, Mava says to Fior.
This research has come to a close here on Earth,
Fior says to the women. They all remain quiet for a few moments. Maybe there's at least
something we can use from this research.
Vorsha breaks the silence. You talked about your research helping to train soldiers? Mava asks.
Yes, we can download the information into the minds of our soldiers,
Fior replies.
giving them years of experience with different types of beings in an instant, especially knowing the breaking points of certain beings, what they can tolerate and what they can't.
Rether walks into the room.
This is why I study their emotions.
Rether says.
You all may leave.
Fior reassures them.
When someone knows what's really happening during my tests, it's not easy to tell their actual reactions.
You're letting us leave? Mava asks. Just like that. Mava doesn't trust what Fior is saying.
Though it may not seem like it, we have strict rules we must adhere to.
Fior says without moving his mouth. Leandra and Mava hear Fior's voice in their minds.
Leave now.
What about the others? Leandra asks. The other people who will be running into this trap.
There will be no others.
Fior states aloud.
This planet is dead, and it's time for us to leave.
Fior reveals the exit from the Oasis, and the women leave his laboratory. They see Mava's hoverbike out in the open. Mava turns on the bike and notices it's now working. They all jump on the hoverbike and leave the Oasis. They see 3 mysterious cloaked figures as they ride off into the desert, continuing to move south. That's not a coincidence, Ava says to herself as she drives as quickly as she can out of the area, somewhat shaken. When she looks back momentarily, she notices the Oasis has vanished.